Roger Federer just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming, and it's about Alex Eala. The tennis legend's revelation sent shockwaves through social media, leaving fans divided and the internet on fire. What did he say? And why is everyone talking about the young Filipino star in a way they never have before? This isn't just another endorsement or casual comment. This is something deeper, something that changes how we see one of tennis's rising talents. Nobody expected Federer to go there, but he did, and now the world wants answers. It happened at a press conference in Basel. Roger Federer, the man who rarely involves himself in controversy, was asked about the future of women's tennis. He smiled, paused, and then said something that would dominate headlines for days. He mentioned Alex Eala, not in the way you'd expect, not with the usual polite praise reserved for young talents. His tone shifted. There was concern in his voice, maybe even disappointment. Alex Eala is incredibly talented, Federer began, but I wonder if she's really playing her own game anymore. The room went quiet. Journalists exchanged glances. What did he mean by that? Federer continued, choosing his words carefully but deliberately. He talked about the pressures young players face, the sponsorship machines that surround them, the federations that see them as investments rather than individuals. And then he said it, the line that would ignite the internet. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect these players end up controlling them, and I've heard things about Alex's situation that worry me. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The implication was clear. Something was happening behind the scenes in Alex Eala's career. Something the public didn't know about. Something that even Roger Federer, a man known for staying out of drama, felt compelled to address. The press conference moved on, but the damage, or the truth, depending on who you ask, was already out there. Within hours, the clip went viral. Twitter exploded. Reddit threads filled with speculation. YouTube channels scrambled to analyze every word Federer said. The question everyone was asking was simple but loaded. What is Alex Eala's dark secret? For a young player still trying to establish herself on the WTA Tour, this was the last kind of attention she needed. But for the tennis world, this was a story too big to ignore. Federer had opened a door, and now everyone wanted to know what was behind it. But to understand why Federer's words hit so hard, we need to go back to where Alex Eala's story really began. Alex Eala isn't just another tennis player. She's a national icon, the pride of the Philippines, the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam title, even if it wasn't juniors. Her 2022 U.S. Open girls singles victory wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a moment of collective joy for an entire country that had waited decades for a tennis star to call their own. Born in 2005, Eala was a prodigy from the start. Her parents recognized her talent early and made a decision that would shape her entire life. At just 11 years old, she was sent to Spain to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy. 11. Most kids that age are figuring out middle school. Alex was already across the world, grinding on clay courts away from her family, living the life of a professional athlete before she even hit puberty. The academy polished her game. She won junior titles. She climbed rankings. She became the face of Filipino tennis. But there was a cost. Every interview, every post-match press conference, every sponsorship deal, it all carried the weight of expectation. She wasn't just playing for herself, she was playing for an entire nation. And that kind of pressure, it changes you. By the time she turned pro, Eala had already spent more time under the spotlight than most players experience in their entire careers. She had deals with major brands. She had a federation investing heavily in her success. She had coaches, managers, agents, all with their own agendas. Her life was no longer her own. It was a carefully managed brand. From the outside, it looked perfect. A young, talented, marketable star on the rise. But insiders whispered. They always do. There were rumors about tensions with her team, stories about sponsorship obligations that dictated her schedule, whispers that she wasn't the one making decisions about her career anymore. And then Federer said what many had been thinking, but no one dared to say out loud. Alex Eala, the golden girl of Philippine tennis, might not be as free as everyone thought. So what exactly did Federer know? And why did he choose to speak now? Federer didn't give names. He didn't point fingers. But his words painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. According to sources close to the situation, what Federer was alluding to was the immense control that various stakeholders had over Eala's career. This wasn't just about coaching advice or career guidance. This was about a young player caught in a web of financial commitments, federation expectations, and sponsorship obligations that left little room for personal choice. Here's what we know. When Eala signed with major sponsors early in her career, the contracts came with strings. Appearance requirements, social media obligations, tournament schedules dictated not by what was best for her development, but by what maximized brand visibility. She was a product, a very valuable one. Then there's the Federation. The Philippine Tennis Association had invested significantly in Eala's career. They funded her training, they supported her travel. But investment comes with expectations. She wasn't just representing herself on court. She was representing an entire sports program that needed her to succeed to justify its funding. The pressure wasn't subtle, and the coaching situation raised eyebrows too. Multiple coaching changes in a short period. Each time, the official story was about finding the right fit, but those close to the situation suggested something else. Coaches who pushed back against the schedule, who prioritized Eala's long-term development over short-term results, didn't last long. The message was clear: fall in line or get replaced. Federer had seen this before. He'd watched young talents burn out under similar pressure. He'd seen promising careers derailed, not by lack of skill, but by lack of agency. And when he looked at Eala's situation, he saw warning signs, so he spoke up. But speaking up came with consequences. The question now wasn't just about what was happening to Alex Eala. It was about whether Federer had the right to expose it, whether his concern was genuine, or whether he just made a young player's life infinitely more complicated. And the internet had opinions, a lot of them. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Filipino fans, fiercely protective of their tennis star, flooded social media with defenses of Eala. They accused Federer of overstepping, of speaking about a situation he didn't fully understand, of using his platform to create controversy where there was none. Roger Federer needs to stay in his lane, one viral tweet read. Alex Eala is doing just fine. We don't need a retired player trying to create drama. But others saw it differently. Tennis analysts pointed out that Federer rarely speaks without reason. If he was concerned enough to say something publicly, there was likely truth behind it. They cited similar cases, young players who seemed destined for greatness only to flame out under the weight of external pressure. Reddit threads dissected every aspect of Eala's career, her tournament schedule, her coaching changes, her sponsorship deals. Patterns emerged that couldn't be easily dismissed. The data suggested a player being pushed hard, perhaps too hard, in pursuit of results that would satisfy everyone except the person actually holding the racket. Women's tennis forums debated the broader implications. This wasn't just about Eala. It was about a system that treats young female athletes as commodities, that prioritizes marketability over mental health, that measures success in sponsorship dollars rather than personal growth. Some fans called for transparency. They wanted to hear from Eala herself. Was she happy? Did she feel in control of her career? Or was Federer right to be worried? But Eala stayed silent. No statement, no social media post, nothing. And that silence, it spoke volumes. The controversy had taken on a life of its own. What started as a casual comment from Federer had become a full-blown debate about power, control, and the hidden costs of being a young star in professional tennis. This wasn't just about one player anymore, this was about the entire system. Alex Eala's story became a mirror. It reflected uncomfortable truths about how the tennis world treats its young stars, especially young women. The pressure to perform, the sponsorship obligations, the federations that see players as national assets rather than individuals with dreams and limits. Think about it. How many teenage girls enter professional tennis with stars in their eyes, only to burn out before they hit 25? How many promising careers end, not because of injuries or lack of talent, but because the system breaks them? The mental health crisis in women's tennis isn't new. Players like Naomi Osaka and Simona Halep have spoken openly about the toll that constant pressure takes. But Eala's situation highlighted something else: the lack of autonomy. When you're being funded by federations, managed by agencies, and sponsored by global brands before you're even old enough to vote, how much of your career is actually yours? Who's making the decisions? And who benefits when you succeed or when you break? Federer's comment forced these questions into the open. It made people uncomfortable because the answer isn't simple. Yes, support systems are necessary. Young players need funding, coaching, and guidance. But when does support become control? When does guidance become exploitation? The tennis world didn't have good answers, and that was the problem. Women's tennis, for all its progress, still struggles with how it treats its young stars. The sport celebrates them, profits from them, but rarely protects them. Ayala's story wasn't unique. It was just the latest example of a pattern that keeps repeating. And until the system changes, there will be more Alex Ealas, more young players caught between their dreams and everyone else's expectations. So where does this leave us, and where does it leave Alex Eala? In the days following Federer's comment, the tennis world waited for a response, for clarification, for anything that would make sense of what had just happened. But the silence continued. Federer didn't walk back his words. He didn't elaborate either. He'd said what he needed to say, and he let it stand. Some respected him for it. Others criticized him for dropping a bomb and then walking away. Alex Eala, meanwhile, continued her schedule. She showed up to her next tournament. She played. She smiled for the cameras. But those who looked closely saw something different. A guardedness that hadn't been there before. A careful distance in her interviews. Was she angry at Federer? Grateful? Trapped? Nobody knew. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the fact that we couldn't tell was evidence of exactly what Federer was warning about. A young player so controlled, so managed that even her emotions had to be carefully curated. The Philippine Tennis Association released a brief statement defending their support of Eala and emphasizing their commitment to her development. It was professional. It was vague. It answered nothing. Sponsors stayed quiet. Coaches stayed quiet. Everyone went back to business as usual. But something had shifted. The conversation had started. People were paying attention now, not just to Alex Eala's results, but to her well-being. Not just to her wins, but to whether she was actually okay. And maybe that's what Federer wanted all along. Not to destroy her career or create scandal, but to make people look closer. To question the system. To care about the person, not just the player. The truth is, we may never know the full story of what's happening in Alex Eala's career. We may never know if Federer was right to speak up or if he overstepped. But we know this: the conversation matters. Because tennis needs its young stars, but it needs them whole. It needs them healthy. It needs them to have careers that last, not just careers that burn bright and fast. Alex Eala is talented enough to be great. The question is whether the system will let her be. Roger Federer's words opened a door that tennis didn't know it needed opened. Alex Eala's story became bigger than just one player. It became a reflection of how the sport treats its rising stars, especially young women carrying the hopes of entire nations. Whether you think Federer was right to speak up or believe he crossed a line, one thing is undeniable. This conversation is far from over. The real question isn't just what happens to Alex Eala next. It's what happens to every young player navigating the impossible balance between dreams and expectations, between support and control. Because if we don't address it now, we'll be having the same conversation about another talented teenager in a few years. What do you think? Was Federer out of line, or did he just say what everyone else was thinking? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay updated on the biggest stories and controversies shaking women's tennis, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is still developing, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.